I have some questions about movies in general, and specifically a bunch around Dune and some other science fiction movies that are coming out. And here comes Patrick Casey with this great question. Ghostbusters Afterlife, he said, had a great ending. I totally agree. For me, exactly the right amount of fan service. And I know that's kind of a dirty word at this point. I think I'm sad about that because we're just in the middle of a cultural discourse, I think, that was started by Star Wars and Abrams' Star Wars sequels and has continued to today. And there are some aspects of that conversation about what is and isn't fan service that I don't think is that useful. I mean, my metric is, did I enjoy the movie? And I love Afterlife. But what Patrick wants to know is, what movie and scene has had the biggest emotional impact on me? And I thought about this for a second, and I'm like, okay, biggest emotional impact, right? Like, Raiders has had an emotional impact on me, but that's more of the totality of the movie. Patrick Casey wants to know about a movie and scene. And then when I thought about it from that vantage point, it's the resuscitation scene from The Abyss. Yeah, a whole bunch of people watching are nodding right now. Yeah, if you haven't seen The Abyss, I just watched it again for probably like my 30th time. I've seen that movie a couple dozen times if I've seen it if I've seen it once. And it is even better every single time than I remember. Spoiler coming up. In the middle of the movie, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who plays Ed Harris's ex-wife in the film, Virgil Brigman's ex-wife, she dies. And that's part of the plan to rescue her. And she gets dragged while drowned back to safety. And then her husband, her ex-husband, Virgil, works to resuscitate her. And it is one of the most brutally intense scenes. But what's amazing when you watch it is how long James Cameron lets the scene play out. It is always longer than I expect it's going to be. It always takes so long. I'm sure she's dead, even though I've seen the movie a million times. And when, again, spoiler, when she wakes up, I burst into tears every single time I watch the movie. It never ceases to just hit me super hard. And that is a testament to the writing and the cinematography, and also the incredible ensemble cast that is in The Abyss. Seriously, I sometimes call up that scene just because I want a good hit, a good dose of some excellent filmmaking with a high emotionality and low stakes for me. Patrick, that's a lovely question, and I liked the exercise of thinking about it. Charles White asks a really interesting question. In broad strokes, to avoid spoilers, what was your favorite part about the art direction in Dune? Did it meet your mind's eye? I know for me, everything was practically how I envisioned it. It's been a long time since I've read Dune, so I did not have a lot of preconceived notions. I attempted to watch the David Lynch Dune in preparation for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Reader, I was not able to complete it. Not because it's terrible, although, there's a lot of aspects about it that totally don't work. There are aspects about the Lynch version that are so beautiful and so weird. And like, weird is what's necessary when you're doing deep science fiction, I think. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I had to stop watching the Lynch Dune because the Baron Harkonnen scenes are actually almost too brutal for me. I'm weird in my old age, and there are certain kinds of gore and exploitation I find really upsetting. And when Harkonnen pulls the heart plug and kills this kid by drinking his direct venous blood, it's disgusting. It's awful. I literally had to turn it up. I felt physically ill. It's unlike me, and I was surprised it happened, but there it is. So all that is the longest way of saying I did not have any really preconceived notions about how Dune should look. I did note when I watched Sicario, which I have also watched like half a dozen times now, that Villeneuve shoots it almost like it's a science fiction movie. Like the cities and the places and the landscapes that he covers in that film, he covers almost like they're another planet. And I think there's a real parity between the real world locations he's filming in Sicario and the completely artificial worlds that he's built for Dune, they both feel equally as real. Seriously. And in that vein, I think the art direction in Dune is some of the best science fiction movie art direction I have yet seen. First of all, it feels cohesive. Each of the aesthetic silos, i.e. the different families, the Harkonnens, the Atreides, etc., have very specific looks to them that are held to very carefully. But more than that, there's a majesty in the master shots where you see giant landscapes of ships taking off and, where the spice is gathered. That for the first time in memory in a film, none of them feel like matte paintings to me. There's small bits of movement in every one, but there's a classic difficulty, I think, that happens with directors of science fiction movies, which is that they spend a lot of money getting people to build them a master shot, and then they want to show it off because that's a natural human impulse. And when you talk to the guys at Weta Workshop about working with Neil Blomkamp, the thing they were amazed about working with him on Chappie and District 9 and other films is that Neil has no sentimentality about having you build something and tossing it or filming it just in passing, because he wants these things to be treated like real world objects. It doesn't matter how much energy the team spent making them look right. He still wants to film it as if it's just a pair of scissors. And that's the correct way to do it. And I just think there's few examples of scale and scope being communicated in a science fiction movie to the degree that it is shown in Dune. The other thing I love is how the shape of the chips. They're like, it's just like I felt like one of their axioms in the creation of the ships and the designs was just take away all preconceived notions about a progression from here to there. Like, this is magic. It's indistinguishable from magic. So these things float. And when this giant ship that is nothing but a sphere with legs lands and this ramp comes down, boom, and it's covered with carpet, like, you just take it all in. But there's a simplicity to the shape of the ships. They're spheres and they're triangles and they're planar, that is lovely. And the ornithopters, holy cow, the ornithopters. I mean, in science fiction history, we have a bunch of ornithopters, but the best ones up until now have all been Miyazaki. They're in Castle in the Sky. They're in Nausicaa, Valley of the Winds. And I think there's one other, but I can't remember it right now. The ornithopters in Dune are incredible. Everything about them feels right, from their sound to the way they vibrate, to the way they fail, to the way they operate. Again, you feel like you're watching real objects. You don't feel like you're watching someone show you a simulacrum of objects. And that sounds like, to me, when I say that out loud, that sounds ludicrous. Of course, that's the goal, but it is a really hard goal to hit. And I don't think there's anyone better at it right now than Denis Villeneuve. Kerry Shanahan says, which shows or movies, or which shows would you love to have a memory wipe of so you could go back and watch from the beginning completely fresh? To be fair, any show that I watch more than once, interesting. I was going to say any show I watch more than once is absolutely a show I'd love to watch from scratch. But that's not exactly true, because I found watching Breaking Bad a second time through all, I think it's 59 hours. The second pass through Breaking Bad was way better than the first pass. Because once you have a bead on the arc, the story is so much more Shakespearean. It's so much more intense. It's so beautiful. There were ways in which every character that would show up in Breaking Bad, I would see their eventual death. Spoiler, some of the characters in Breaking Bad die. I would see their death. The brother-in-law would see him, and it was like I was unstuck in time. Each character would come in, and I'd see their whole history laid out in front of them all the way to its end. And that made it bittersweet and intense in a brand new way. But you asked about shows I'd want a memory wipe on. It's hard to top how exciting it was to watch Sports Night the first time. Aaron Sorkin's first big network show. He and Tommy Schlamme wrote Sports Night with Felicity Huffman, starred Felicity Huffman, Josh Charles, Peter Krause, Robert Guillaume, and Josh Malina, an incredible cast. I loved that show so much when it came out. I recorded it on VHS somewhere in storage. I still have a VHS tape with the entirety of season 1 on 2 6-hour tapes. I think I managed to fit it all on 2 extended VHS cassettes. So I loved it back then, and I have since watched it another 3 times, both seasons. It's one of my favorite shows. It's some amazing writing. Boy, is there a slowdown in the middle of season 2, a real funk of a slowdown in terms of where everything is going, but it's an incredible show. I mean, anything that I loved the idea of getting to see it. You know, when I first met my wife, she had never seen Grosse Pointe Blank. And I was like, oh my God, I get to show you this movie for your first time. What a treat. She had never seen The Thing. She had never seen The Thing. I was like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. Let's just watch. So in a way, to be honest, I'm not sure I ever want a full. I mean, I always say to people, I'm jealous you get to watch it for the first time. Because, Grosse Pointe Blank is a revelation the first time you see it. It is a movie, my wife pointed out to me, it is a movie without subtext. Everything that would normally be emotional subtext in a film is actually stated outright and verbalized as text in Grosse Pointe Blank. That is, from a storytelling and screenwriting standpoint, that's kind of thrilling.